If you're a creator with a high ticket sales process, then I guarantee you at least two of these things are gonna apply to you right now. And I don't have like a master list of the biggest mistakes creators make, but over the last week, I've jotted some things down looking at creator businesses and working with them. And these are just super low hanging fruit, easy fixes, things that you can fix within an afternoon that are gonna save you thousands of dollars in lost revenue each week if you implement them. I work as an executive producer for creators, not the content side, the business side. Basically the part between someone discovering you and paying you money. And after winning the school games with a creator that I worked with and becoming the 0.0001% of earners on Skool out of almost 15,000 communities, I've seen what works and I've seen what doesn't work at a level most creators never get a window into. So here's the 5 places you're leaving money right now. All right, so number 1, the VSL is doing the wrong job. I've seen this past week, okay, first mistake, if you don't have a VSL, you just have a link straight to an application, you're wrong. You're just wrong. So get a VSL going. The main kind of job of a VSL is you're not selling them. You're not selling them. You're there to create sort of a gap. Get their pain, amplify their pain, and you need to phrase it in a way, crystallize and clarify that pain in a way that they haven't been able to put into words. And this is always what I preach, audience intelligence, doing research on your audience so that you actually know what that is, researching your buyers, doing surveys, looking in DMs, Reddit. There's so many ways to go in depth. I'm not gonna go in depth on it in this video. And check out some of my other ones where I do go in depth on that. But actually crystallizing what their pain is so they can completely, A, they understand it better, B, they feel it more because now it's crystallized, you're saying it. So for example, if someone just has a headache, okay, for example, that's a pain that they have. And then if in a VSL, you start going ahead and you're telling them like, hey, you have a headache and I know you're feeling it in the front of your head and your head starts throbbing, your ears start ringing. Just that amplifying the pain is starting to create a gap. And so you want to create it in the pain direction. And then in the other direction, you want to create crystallize, put into words that they haven't been able to put into words themselves so they can visualize it and feel it more. And this will separate that gap even further, which is exactly what your offer is going to fix. But that doesn't mean going in and just saying, hey, okay, you're going to get XYZ. You don't say that shit on your VSL. That's not the job of the VSL. Anyways, you want to amplify that dream outcome, same way you crystallize it and amplified it, by putting into words that the prospect or the lead hasn't been able to put themselves. You make that gap bigger. And then naturally, there's a gap, there's a canyon, you need a bridge to cross it. And what better bridge than your offer, hopefully, if it's a good one. That's when you present it. You want to keep it super, super high level and just the outcome of that offer. So, hey, I'm going to take you in the next 6 weeks from 0 to 5K a month. Book a call to learn more. You want to make it sexier. But that's kind of the thing. You don't say, hey, this is my offer. We got 3 coaches. You're going to get 1 weekly group call a week. And then your bonus is going to be XYZ. We have 60 modules, 120 hours. You're going to get a community. You're going to get this access. You're going to get this. You just took you had a gift for them and you just unwrapped it completely and gave it to them before Christmas. And now they don't want it. You build that mystery, that intrigue. They don't know exactly what's in it. And what this also allows for is on the sales call, your salesperson is able to take what they're saying, have it be very tied to what they're saying. So if they're mentioning a lot about, hey, I've been struggling with accountability, I can't keep myself consistent, I always fizzle out of things. It's like, okay, so you mentioned that you're having issues with accountability and da-da-da. So we're gonna put you into this community that's gonna hold you accountable. And so each feature that you have in your offer is directly tied to whatever they say. And so you're able to almost fill in the blanks. You have your offer and then you fill in the blanks with what they're saying so that it appeals to specifically their pains, their needs, and all of that. Your job with the VSL is to make it easy to sell on the call. Overall, the VSL, you create the gap and you get them to book a call, and you make the call more of a confirmation that this is the right decision rather than reselling them on the entire thing. That's kind of the main thing there. You also want to pre-handle some objections. You just want to make it as easy as possible so that when they get on that sales call, they can just hand their credit card to the closer and it's easy. That's like the super, super high level goal of what you want with your VSL. So it can get more intricate, but that's kind of the overarching idea of it. And that alone will help you out, and it ties into the next part when we get to the application and how those two things are interlinked. So I'll get to that in a bit. Okay, so number 2, the application is pushing people with money away. So what do I mean by that? I see so many applications that, and I'll be honest, I was guilty of this when I started working with creators. I was guilty of putting too many questions. I put too many open-ended questions. So I see it so often where it's like, hey, why do you think you're a good fit for our program? Da da da. And I understand the frame because I did that. You're trying to make it seem super exclusive, your program, and make people buy in more, which is an understandable perspective. But after testing it and seeing what works better, it's better to reduce as much friction for your sales calls at first. Think of it kind of like a pipe or a river. You don't want to constrain the river at the beginning and let there just be a little trickle of water going down the pipe or the river or whatever. You want to just let the pipe flow, let the water flow, the leads flow through the process. You're going to get more data. First, you're going to get worse calls, and your closers will be complaining at first because they have bounded rationality to the point where they only see, okay, on these calls I'm getting unqualified leads or more unqualified leads. However, they will just have that perspective. That's just something you can't help, because in their spot, they can only see the business from that angle of, hey, I'm hopping on calls and not everyone is qualified. But you as the business owner, me helping you, you have to look at it and be like, okay, well, I'm not going to just add a fuck ton of friction into the process and then there's just not that many people booking. Okay, yes, the few people that book on the closer's calendar might be qualified, but we're making way less money that way. You always want to start with the pipe flowing more at first, and you can always constrain it later down the line. For example, once your closer is completely overbooked, then you're like, okay, his calendar is completely booked. Let me add some friction, start weeding out people so that his calendar is still full, but now you have so many leads that you can start weeding out people that have less money or add more friction into the process. Another way, so don't do open-ended questions, okay? Just literally just do multiple choice, have a few questions. I wouldn't do more than like 3 open-ended questions, maybe 4, where they're at, what they're struggling with. You're basically just giving the closer's a hunter. You're giving them tracks to see in the snow for them to hunt down the prey and basically close them in a sense. When they have that starting point and information, okay, they're struggling with accountability or they've tried different things and failed, you should have different multiple choice options based on where they're at and what they're struggling with, and you should know the majority of these based off of doing research on your avatar. That's kind of the main reason, but again, you want to limit the friction there. Another way to reduce friction, and this is actually something I had a big fucking struggle with this. So this will hopefully help you out a lot. People lie a fuck ton, especially if you're a newer creator or they don't trust you as much, they're gonna lie even more. I was working with one creator and we had an application obviously, and I put, okay, how much are you willing to invest if this is the right thing for you? The problem was people just don't want to tell you. They don't want to tell you how much money they have to invest. How could they tell you if in your VSL you're not telling them exactly what the offer is? How could they tell you how much, they're willing to invest? Because they don't know the value fully yet. In the VSL, you won't fully understand the value of the offer. That's why if you give the price then or how much they're willing to invest in the application, they're not going to understand. They're not going to be able to give you a good range, and they're probably going to lowball or they're going to lie. So that's why you don't ask that. It's better to ask their income and ask it in a smooth way. Somehow you're not just how much are you making per month. A good way to financially qualify people is to ask what's your dream income or what's your goal income with XYZ. And they'll tell you, hey, I want to make 20K a month, blah, blah, blah. And then you can say in the next question, okay, how far are you away from that? What are you currently making? Or you can frame it in a different way, but the point is it's kind of like you're asking that question in the application just to see the gap from them. So you're not just asking, hey, how much are you making? You're asking in a slick way where you're not trying to find out how much they're making. You're trying to see how far they are from their goal. That's a different framing and it's not going to look salesy or sleazy. The application, just overall, make it as easy as possible for people to get on a call with you and give you money. Don't ask too many questions, ask multiple choice ones, ask as minimal questions as you can, but just enough to give some ammo to the closers and financially qualify them in a minimal friction way, which is getting their income, not asking how much they're able to spend, and you ask it in a slick way like I just went over. Number 3 is you're catching leads with a goddamn spaghetti strainer. So what do I mean by that? This is a really low-hanging fruit, by the way, and it's a big one. So when someone clicks on your application, or not your application, when someone clicks on your landing page and they see your VSL if you have one, and you don't have an opt-in, you're losing out on so much money just right there. Add an opt-in, so hey, you have to give me your name, email, phone number, in order for them to watch the VSL. Because so many people will click on the page and they won't watch it. Sounds simple enough, but obviously you have to take it a step further because that's not enough to just make money. You have to get a dialer who's going to be dialing these people 5 minutes in. And you might think, oh, like that they're watching the VSL and blah, blah, blah. But it's still worth it. Like I've tested it. I know people doing it. You're going to make more money if you just call people 5 minutes after they opt in, even if they're still watching the VSL. Because so many people will just click on the page and not watch it. And then you can kind of create that amplification there on the call as well. So it'll kind of act like a mini VSL in a sense. So just from that, you will get a lot more people. You'll get more leads and you can do more email marketing to them. And there's just different avenues to get to them. So that right there will give you a huge bump, especially if you're not getting that many leads. This is just to maximize money from every single lead. If every single lead is getting called, then there you will make a lot more money. It's just that simple. So get a dialer, get a script, make sure they're calling 5 minutes or like 4 minutes is ideal because then it doesn't seem automated within them opting in, because speed to lead is key, and within an hour someone's going to forget what they opted into and they're not going to pick up the phone. So you have to be super surgical and methodical about that. Okay, next thing is email marketing. Now this is going to be a little harder to implement in an afternoon, but still most creators just are not implementing email marketing. People that opt in, they should be getting nurture emails and then sold to book a call. If they are qualified but they didn't book, this is a big one. I'm going to try to keep this brief, but create an automation to where if someone fills out an application, they get a tag, they get a, let's say, qualified application tag. And then if within 10 minutes, they don't get a booked a call tag, so they should have a tag added when they book a call through Calendly or whatever the platform might be, then you send a Slack message to your dialer and you'd be like, hey, this motherfucker didn't book a call, but he filled out an application and he's qualified. Go call him in 5 minutes or call him right now. And that's another thing, because you'll have a lot of people. It's a lot of the time it'll be, it can be like 20 to 50% that will fill out an application, but they won't book a call. So having that is actually just a big hole you're plugging by doing that. So another one is call them after they book a call. Have your dialer call them or your setter and be like, hey, confirm that they're actually qualified. And this is also 5 minutes after they book a call. People will forget shit if you give them time. If it's literally like 20 minutes and be like, well, you call them and they're like, hello? And they'll be like, yeah, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Like I didn't book anything, I didn't watch anything. People literally have, I don't know, dinosaur brain or T-Rex brain or goldfish memory, whatever you want to call it. So you have to, speed to lead is so fucking key here. you have to have your dialers calling within 5 minutes. That's super crucial. Call them within 5 minutes, the leads, and just make sure that they actually have the money and they're good for the call, they have the meeting link, this sort of thing. All right, so number 4 is not taking advantage of homework. So what I mean by that is people will send testimonials, or they'll have testimonials, linked somewhere on their page or the post booking page after they book a call. Maybe they send them some as well, but they're not taking advantage of them. Testimonials can be kind of not manipulated, but you can use them to your advantage, and you have to start this when you're actually recording your testimonials and the questions that you ask your prospects. So what I mean by this is you should know the objections that people will have. Objections people are getting on calls, false beliefs, objections, reasons they won't buy. And then you ask those questions to people that have the testimonials or people that got results. So for example, you're hopping on a call and you're having a testimonial with one of your students, and you ask them like, hey, did you believe this was possible for you? And they were like, no, like I thought all make money online stuff was a scam. I didn't believe that I could do it myself. But when I joined XY blah, 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 like I got surrounded by people and I saw other people getting results, and I started talking to people, and I started talking to you, and I saw like, okay, this shit is real. And now I was able to push through that belief, and now I'm making 10K a month. And so you just handle that objection through a testimonial video. So on top of it being social proof, you can just you can handle those objections in there. And obviously you want to handle as many as you can in there. So knowing what those are, look at your sales calls, look at your audience. You should, again, back to your audience intelligence. Do you actually know your avatar? Do you know their false beliefs, objections? Do you know the way they view the world? Because everyone views the world through a skewed lens, and you have to talk in a way that resonates with them through that skewed lens. And so asking questions that break those beliefs or resonate with them for the testimonial videos is a really good way to maximize on that. So that's kind of the giving homework, and it's required that they watch these testimonials so that they get the most out of the sales call. Can frame it in that way. Don't call it a sales call, call it a strategy call. All right, so number 5 is post-booking pages are just not being leveraged enough. And so there's a few points here. Post-booking page should reinforce, it should amplify, it should reassure, it should make them invest, and it should clarify things. So what do I mean by that? Reinforce. You should reinforce that they made the right decision, validate it. Hey, you just took a massive step in this direction. Most people don't do that. Validate them, give them assurance, self-belief that they're the type of person. And right now you're building an identity that on the sales call will be valuable, because you helped build the identity that they're the type of person to do this. So when they come on the sales call, in their head now, they're more of the type of person to do this thing, and they're more likely to invest and then get that result. That's an important thing there. It's super easy. Another thing, we're gonna want to amplify. So amplify the pain and the desire. Don't just restate the VSL again, but go and say like, hey, on this call, we're gonna go over things you're struggling with, what has held you back over the last 5 years, the exact outcome you want. And so in the next 6 months, for example, and you can do a few more of these, but just them understanding these questions in their head is already creating the gap even more, and they're going to start thinking about these subconsciously before the call, and that way also on the call they'll come there more ready to have answers and something for the closer to dig into. Reassure, so throw in some more social proof again. On the post-booking page, if you already have a testimonial, then use it, throw it in, weave it into your post-booking page again. It doesn't hurt. It's always good to throw that in. It'll just reassure them. Also, mental investment. Get them to mentally invest. So this is also kind of homework too for them again. When you ask them, hey, think about where you want to be in the next 6 months before you hop on this call, or think about what's the revenue or what's been holding you back. So this is going to create a micro commitment. Again, it kind of relates back to earlier. It's going to give you more ammo on the sales call. It's going to get them more invested because they're doing a little bit more before the sales call. It's just a good thing to do. And then finally, clarify. Take out the logistical friction by being like, hey, this sales call is going to be 45 minutes. I want you to be in a quiet place. You won't be disturbed. Be with a decision maker or have another decision maker on the call. Make sure you're on a computer. Make sure in a quiet place. Make sure you check the time that you have. Make sure you click at yes on the actual meeting or on the actual invite that you get. There's like a Google Calendar. You can say if you're going to attend, yes, no, or maybe, or else we're going to cancel your call. Create that kind of urgency. Just take out the logistical friction of that. So give them information on where, when, how, so that it's as easy as possible and they don't have to think about, oh, I don't know how this is going to be, where to be, because a lot of people will just join on their phone driving thinking it's going to be a 20-minute call. You don't want that. Okay, perfect. So that kind of wraps it up. That's kind of what I've seen over the last week. Some things that, I think can be helpful. A lot of these are low-hanging fruits. If you have any questions, you can drop a comment, or if you want a video on something else, just let me know in the comments. And if you want me to look at your business or want any help, just use the first link in the description. And if this was genuinely helpful to you, then I would really appreciate if you left a like. If it's not, then leave a dislike or just don't like it at all. Peace.